They said he would never walk. They said he would never rule. They said a crippled boy crawling in the dust could never become a king. But the prophecy had been clear. This broken child would one day command an empire greater than any West Africa had ever seen. The sorcerers who mocked him would live to see their words turn to ash. Because the boy who couldn't stand would rise to uproot trees with his bare hands, defeat a sorcerer king cloaked in human skin, and build the legendary Mali Empire, one of the wealthiest and most powerful kingdoms the world has ever known. This is the true story of how a disabled prince transformed himself into the Lion of Mali. In the ancient city of Niani, capital of a small Mandinka kingdom, whispers of shame echoed through the royal compound. The year was around 1217, and Prince Sundiata Keita, son of King Nair Maghan, was 7 years old and still could not walk. While other children ran and played, he dragged himself across the ground on his hands, his legs as useless as broken branches. The king's other wives mocked Sundiata's mother, Sagalan, calling her son the Crippled One and the Crawling Prince. They laughed openly, certain that this disabled child would never inherit the throne. Even the kingdom's sorcerers had predicted greatness for him, but looking at the boy who couldn't stand, few believed it anymore. But Sagalan never lost faith. She would whisper to her son each night, "You are destined for greatness." The baobab tree grows slowly, but it becomes the mightiest in the forest. When Sundiata was still young, his father died, and his half-brother Dankaran Tuman seized the throne. The new king, influenced by his ambitious mother, made life unbearable for Sundiata and Sagalan. They were given the smallest portions of food, the worst quarters, and were subjected to daily humiliation. One morning, Dankaran Tuman's mother needed baobab leaves for her cooking and deliberately sent Sagalan to fetch them, knowing her crippled son couldn't climb trees. The insult was clear, and the entire court gathered to watch the humiliation. But something stirred in young Sundiata that day. He called for the royal blacksmith and demanded an iron rod. When it arrived, so heavy that 6 men struggled to carry it, Sundiata gripped it with both hands. He planted it in the ground, and, with a roar that shook the compound, he pulled himself upright for the first time in his life. The iron rod bent under his weight like a bow. The crowd gasped, and then Sundiata took his first step, and another, and another. He walked to the baobab tree, and with his bare hands, he uprooted the entire tree and dragged it to his mother's door. "Here, mother," he said, "you will never need to gather leaves again." But Sundiata's transformation made him dangerous. Fearing assassination, his mother fled with him into exile. For years, they wandered from kingdom to kingdom, to Jadiba, to Taban, to Mima, always as refugees, always dependent on the hospitality of strangers. During these years, Sundiata grew into a formidable warrior and strategist. He learned statecraft, military tactics, and diplomacy. He studied the weaknesses of kingdoms and the strengths of great leaders. But his homeland suffered under a terrible threat. The sorcerer king Samaro Kante of Sasso had conquered the Mandinka territories with brutal efficiency. His army seemed invincible, protected by dark magic and wielding weapons none could match. Samaro wore a cloak made of human skin and was said to be immune to iron and stone. He ruled through terror, demanding impossible tributes and executing those who failed to deliver. The elders of Mali secretly sent messengers to find Sundiata. "Only the lion can save us now," they said. Sundiata returned to a homeland he barely recognized. But he was no longer the crawling boy. He was a warrior king, a master diplomat, and a brilliant strategist. He began building an alliance of kingdoms, all united against Samaro's tyranny. At the Battle of Karina in 1235, the two armies finally met. Samaro's forces were vast and seemingly unstoppable, but Sundiata had learned the sorcerer's secret weakness. A white rooster's spur could break his magic. When an arrow tipped with this charm struck Samaro, his powers vanished. His army scattered, and the sorcerer king disappeared, never to be seen again. Sundiata didn't just defeat Samaro. He transformed victory into something greater. Rather than ruling as a conqueror, he established the Mali Empire on principles of justice and cooperation. He created the Kurukan Fuga, one of the world's oldest constitutions, which established laws protecting the weak, promoting trade, and ensuring that no one group held absolute power. Under his rule, Mali flourished. Trade routes expanded, gold flowed from the mines, and the empire became one of the wealthiest and most powerful in the world. Cities like Timbuktu would later become centers of learning and culture, their universities attracting scholars from 3 continents. Sundiata Keita died around 1255, but the empire he built endured for centuries. His great-nephew, Musa Musa, would become famous for a pilgrimage to Mecca so lavish that he gave away so much gold that he crashed the economy of Egypt for a decade. But Sundiata's true legacy wasn't wealth or military conquest. It was the transformation of a disabled boy, mocked and exiled, into a leader who proved that greatness comes not from where you start, but from refusing to accept the limitations others place on you. Today, Sundiata Keita is remembered throughout West Africa as the Lion King of Mali, the founder of an empire, and the proof that destiny cannot be denied. Griots still sing his epic, passing down his story from generation to generation, reminding listeners that the tree that grows slowly becomes the mightiest in the forest. The boy who couldn't walk became the man who built an empire that stretched across West Africa, proving that legends are not born. They are made through courage, determination, and an unshakable belief in one's destiny. Sundiata's story remains one of Africa's greatest epics, preserved through oral tradition by griots, traditional storytellers, for over 800 years. The Mali Empire he founded became one of the largest and wealthiest empires in medieval history, covering territory equivalent to modern-day Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Mauritania, and parts of Niger and Burkina Faso.